It seems to me that everybody's trying to look for a new system to get out of the current tyranny that we are in, the jurisdiction, if you like, the reality that we find ourselves in the world. And having thought about this, I think the answer is actually quite simple, but it will take time to do. And that is a question of not registering our children when they're born. You see, it seems to me if you don't register the children, then the system that we have been indoctrinated into thinking is the only way to do things doesn't know anything about them. If the system doesn't know the children are born, it cannot force an indoctrination method, education as they call it, to limit the prospects of that new baby, child, boy, girl, which will eventually grow up to a man or woman. And they won't be able to reach them. And over time, over a generation, if you have people who are not indoctrinated, who are free thinkers, who are educated at home, who can learn through books, through the internet, but are not on the system and not indoctrinated, I think that we could have a very much freer society. When a baby is born, we're encouraged to have that child registered with an official name, a name that's copyrighted by the Crown Corporation. The first name, or the Christian name, is joined with the surname, and it becomes a legal entity, and it joins the system. And then later on, I don't know what age it comes at, 16, 18, whenever it is, a national insurance number is given to the child because you've registered the child. The national insurance number then, of course, and the QSIP number on the birth certificate or the copy of a entry of birth is, the certificate is floated on the stock market, as we now learn. And of course, corporations will, on the future prospects of that individual, of that man or woman, and how much they are likely to pay tax and how much they are going to be paying across the board and all different things, how much they will earn, is floated on the stock market, and corporations make a profit on that. And there is this trust that people will argue that is ours or that we're the beneficiary of, and all of that. But we can't get access to it, or in order to access it, there are mysterious hoops that we have to jump through. And we can't get through to the initial investment in that. So if a child is invested, I don't know, £100,000 or £1 million, whatever it might be, you could never touch that. You could only be able to sort of get the profit that has been made. And all of that is, in many ways, I think, is a dishonourable system, because you're not aware of it. You're not told about it. You might stumble across it. You might see a video on the internet and you might learn about it, and you might spend ages trying to get through it. But the whole way that we examine the world is through this one system. We register, we end up under legislation. And legislation gives the appearance of democracy. It gives the appearance that we're free. But actually, if we adhere to the name, to the corporate name, we end up in this world of commerce. And some people will say, but we need to be in this world in order to have education, to have bank accounts, to be able to travel on aeroplanes and go in different countries and what have you. And that is the way that it has been set up, and very cleverly set up. And in the past, of course, before all of the birth certificate, before all of this having to show papers, having to somehow identify yourself, which to me seems odd, that you can use a birth certificate that actually says on it, warning, this is not to be used as identification, that you can identify it. So effectively, we are acting dishonorably if we use the name anyway, because it's it's a creation that we gave that name away, the title of that name away to the government. I personally feel that just because that happened, we don't have to use that name. We can have any name. But to me, to get out of this, as I say, could be a long-ish process. But if more people having babies did not register them, they wouldn't be in the system. Okay, you might argue, well, what happens if they have an accident? If they need medical attention, they need to go to the hospitals. And the hospitals at the moment, they're all run by the government. And you have to have a national insurance number unless you go privately. But I think unless we start to change this system, unless we actually start to say, do you know what, we need to train our people into honourable and wholesome medical ways of dealing with ourselves, we won't need those. We have alternative systems. We have alternative methods. Okay, setting a leg or an arm, if it's been broken, does tend to need a hospital in accident and emergency. But many of the other things that we're given, the petrochemicals from the pharmaceuticals, do not now seem to be of benefit. And people survived in the past quite well without the modern medicine from the pharmaceutical companies. And we are beginning to realize that there are a number of occulted methods of healing and curing certain diseases that have been hidden from us. And I think that it's possible that we can ditch that system and have a much truer system if we simply stop registering our children and set up, well, communities without the system being the thing. Because you only get into the system if you consent to it. One of those reasons, of course, the ways to get into the system that we are not told about is that you said, oh, well, you can influence the system by everybody having their vote. And so you join the electoral roll. And many people are now rescinding that and saying, I don't want to be on the electoral one. I don't want to be in this system. The system might have proven to be useful to us if it wasn't overrun now by the dark forces, by those people who are greedy, narcissistic, and so on. The system as a system could well have been useful to us, but it is proved now beyond all recognition that it is broken, it is run by the wrong type of people, and we have been limited in our thought processes, in our ability to think for ourselves, in our ability to take responsibility for ourselves. And we've been encouraged to get on a treadmill, to go to work from 9 to 5, not to be free, not to be creative in our own rights, but just to pay bills with taxes attached so that those elites who don't work in the same way that you and I do can get richer and have more and more. And we've seen that there is this corporate takeover of dead entities that don't even exist. They're just a concept. They're just something on paper that is run by people who put on the persona, because in order to be in a corporation, you have to be a legal fiction, who wear the mask of the legal fiction. And I think that part of, not the only way, but part of the way to a brighter, better future, although I think there will be a collapse of this corporation and legal system, I think that's coming in and of itself. But to help that, to run parallel to that, is to stop registering children and putting them into the system. I think as people, as free-thinking people who use common sense and critical thinking, that we owe it not to place our next generation into a corrupt system. We know it's corrupt. We know the government is corrupt. We know that it's tyrannical. We know it's giving us policies that we never asked for. It's covered the earth with this carbon copy, this pretend version of what's there. And we're all going around putting on this mask of a name, a forename and a surname. We've forgotten who we are and what we are. We've forgotten that we are a soul in a body, and that this is a place for creativity and enjoyment. And instead, look what we have. If you wanted to create this world as it is, just think about it. How would you go about creating the world as we have if it was designed this way? What would you say? You would say something along the lines of, well, I tell you what, we'll give everybody a number. We will give the illusion that they've got freedom. We will put in place people who will control them, but we'll tell them that there is this thing called democracy, but won't actually be enacted. Everybody that gets into the control system, the parliament, the government, the House of Commons, will be people who are basically bought and paid for to act as we have designed them to be, and everybody will be oppressed one way or another, and we will give the illusion that taxes are essential and part of it. And if you're an employee of the state, of the UK corporation, you have to pay. And this will be what we will design. Well, it doesn't sound a very nice thing, does it? And then the people in power will penalise the very poor and bleed the poor and take as much money from them. And those that are on benefits, that because we've made them ill by spraying the skies, by poisoning the water, by poisoning the atmosphere with electromagnetic frequencies, by putting up 5G towers, and all the other myriad of ways in which we are being oppressed, we will limit their thinking. We will lie to them big time. We will put up false flags and say to them, this is life, so that but people believe this is it, that this is the sum total. And many people sitting in a pub with a pint of ale will be sitting there and saying, this doesn't seem right, but this is all there is. And I say that isn't all there is. I say that is a fake system that we have been indoctrinated by going to state schools, by believing the nonsense that has been told to us by teachers, by books and television and the mainstream media, and by a lot now of YouTubers and other alternative social medias, by putting the limits on us. Instead of saying, no, we are born free, and it's only us that puts the limits on us by going into a system that actually mostly we don't even know exists. We just assume that is life. But many of us are beginning to realize that this isn't life. This isn't why we're here. This isn't what we're doing on this realm, the earth. Whatever that is, whether it's a round planet, whether it's a flat plane, whether it's just created on the fly, whether it's an hallucination, whatever it is, there isn't just that one way of looking at it. And I think that we need to start by not putting the next generation into the system, by simply saying, no, thank you. It's very kind of you. I believe we do have a choice. We're just not making it. We're not making the right choice. We don't even know the choice exists, but of course it exists. Why should you have to register a child and allow the state, an artificial corporation, to know everything you do? Why should they? Why is that system even there? Why are we blind to the possibilities of a different way of living? So I think we have enormous ability to get out of this. And one of those methods is not to put our children, our offspring, the next generation, by limiting their thinking and putting them into this system. The state won't like it, but that's got nothing to do with them. And also, we can get out of it ourselves. And in time, In time, it will be possible to travel the country without people stopping you and saying, where's your license to drive? Where's your insurance? Where's the MOT? Where is your passport? Where are all these things? In time, I think that all of that system of control and surveillance will disappear. They want us in these digital IDs because that will be the final nail in the coffin for free thinking and free people. Because once they've tagged you with this in the digital world, it would be extremely difficult to get out. We still have a chance. And I think that chance is growing every day because the dark forces and the system is slowly collapsing. Because as much as people say they are trying to trap the soul and take the soul from us, I don't believe that is actually possible. And that again is another lie to frighten us, to keep us under their control. You may disagree, and it's just an opinion, and it's just an idea, it's just a thought. But the system is a system, and I see it that we don't have to be in that system. They may not like it, but we will be free.